This conference will now be recorded.
Okay. Good afternoon. It's Tuesday, July 18th, 2023. This is the regular July meeting of the Davenport Public Library Board of Trustees. We're meeting in meeting room C of the Davenport Public Library, Maine. My name is Steve Emming, President of the Board of Trustees, and I'd like to call this meeting to order. First item on the agenda is roll call. Malavika Shwakandi.
Present.
Judy Lance.
Here.
Joe Heinrichs.
Here.
Craig Cooper.
Here.
Okay. And Sylvia Roba, Amanda Motto, and Laura Guinness indicated that they would not be able to attend today. And we'll wait. Hopefully Tom Engelman will join us. And I'm Steve Emming, and I am here. Also in attendance, we have Jeff Collins, the library director, Lexi Riley, assistant library director, Jennifer Williams, HR operations manager, Tracy Moore, development officer, Casey Shipley, the recorder, and attending virtually is Marion McGinnis, our city council liaison. And we also have a visitor, Alan Detmer. And we're glad to have everyone meeting us with us. Thank you. And so we'll continue on with the agenda. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. And so if I may have a motion to approve the consent agenda, I'd appreciate it.
And so moved, Steve.
Thank you, Malavika. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Craig. I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Malavika?
Yes.
Judy?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Craig?
Yes.
And my own vote is yes. The motion carries. Next item on the agenda is public with comment. And as I mentioned previously, we do have a visitor, but was just here to attend the meeting and not to comment, so we will carry on. Next item on the agenda is reports and communications. And there we have, first item there is the Friends. And we have no one here from the Friends. So we'll mention that I attended the Friends meeting, and the primary item on their agenda or before the meeting was to have their investment advisor give a report on the status of their investments, which they did, and things are well. So that was the main thing. And they also, there was, I guess, a little discussion, but mainly thanks to Paul Tompkins, their treasurer, for a draft budget that he had put together, which will be helpful not only to the Friends, but also to the library. So that was a good thing. And let me see, there was also a report from the development director and about donations, and thank yous have been sent out pending and upcoming visits for possible funding. And anything else of significance that you may not be recalling, Jeff?
Just two other items to add to. One was they are going to be issuing an RFP related to the investment account management. It's something they do periodically. I believe the last time was about 10 years ago, though. So they're overdue to do that, and that'll be happening in the next couple of weeks. And then also they did approve transferring some funds out of their investment account into a money market account so that they have access to it for the children's area project moving forward.
Okay. Yep. Thank you very much.
Just the two things to add.
Okay, next item under reports and communications is committee reports. First one is finance. Tom's not here. We'll see if he arrives. We'll come back to that. Personnel, do you aware of anything going on there, Craig, that we have mentioned?
Not aware of anything.
Okay. Next item under committee reports is advocacy. Malavika?
The DEI committee met last week, and we went through the sex offending, sex offending policy, etc. We also have talked a few things about the social time between all of us, staff, etc. We will soon share it with all of us here. That's one. I am going to, I'm volunteering on the advocacy committee of the ILA, ILA that Sam Helmick has put together. And we will be meeting next week via Zoom for the first time. The first topic on the agenda that Sam has introduced is the levy, the recent levy thing that has come up. So I'll get to know more and I'll share more about it after a Zoom meeting, which is going to be next week. And I believe July 27th is also her ILA advocacy webinar, I believe, in the evening. I forget the exact time, but it's a free webinar to attend, which is in the evening. Lastly, and more importantly, I would very much like to thank Catherine and her staff for this wonderful tour they arranged last week, which was on Saturday, and it was done along with Archie Touring QC. They are local people, and Ellen Shapley is a person who took all of us around. And the start of the tour was the beautiful history that she shared about this building. I mean, which we all know, we have it on our website, etc. But the way she put it and the way she kind of, shared what kind of furniture we had here, why was it here, the impressions and the changes and what was the architect's philosophy, etc. was just beautiful. The tour was supposed to last for 1.5 hours. It went on for more than 2 hours. And I think we had a beautiful setup. We had 9 or 10 people, out of which one of the families, which had recently moved, and I was chatting with them. She's an architect on the Arsenal. And I said, she said, we've recently moved. So I said, do you live in Davenport? And she said, yes. Are you a member of this library? No, I'm just going to become one. So we had 3 members that afternoon. Long story short, it's a beautiful tour. And I hope Ellen Shapley connects it to what all we have here, the local pictures and things like that. And to end this, I'm going to talk about this tour at the Danforth Schools District's board meeting, how this can help in the civics and politics curriculum that they have and what we could do, because there are funds available for this tour through Danforth Schools Foundation. So thank you for the lovely arrangement there.
Okay. Yes, thank you. Yeah, would also add a recommendation if you're able to attend the advocacy webinar. Those are usually like 6 to 7:30. I believe this one's the same, but check that. And also, I was planning to attend the tour, but couldn't. We ended up with grandchildren for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And, but anyway, it was pointed out that there's another one, I believe it's on
August 7th.
Oh, 7th, is it? Okay.
6 to 7:30.
Yeah, and that's in the evening.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Plan to take that in. Thank you very much, Malvika.
Yes.
Let's see, we don't have Tom yet, so I will, as a member of the Finance Committee, cover what he usually covered, and I guess I would just say that our latest budget recap covers the whole previous fiscal year, and we ended the fiscal year at 97% of our budget, so that was good, and being a little bit under. So like I say, that's a good thing, and I guess that's about all there is to be said, because it's not anticipating it to go higher or lower since last year is done. Anyway. Okay. Next item under reports and communications is the director's report. Jeff, do you have anything to add to the report you provided or amplified?
Yeah, just a couple of things on the report. Just before that, the advocacy training session, we'll send out a reminder in the coming weeks, but I believe it is in the morning at 10:30 or 11.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay.
10. Yeah, it's at 10 o'clock in the morning. We'll make sure we send out a reminder for that as well. And then this is still a preliminary budget. There are still some bills that come in after, so it's not a finalized one yet.
Oh, okay.
It's not gonna change much. Just wanted to make sure that was clear though.
Mhm.
In terms of the director's report, we did reopen Main on June 26th, so we've been open for about 3 weeks after having the main library closed for 30 days. It has been slow, just in terms of visits and circulation, but picking up in the coming weeks. This week in particular, on Monday, was very busy. They will still probably be a little bit slow until we're able to get Main Street reopened and then more travel lanes on 4th Street. We hope that will be happening in the next couple of weeks. As of July 1st, we were also able to increase hours for security. So now they are working 40 hours a week, which gets us closer to the coverage of during normal hours that the main library is open. That's 53.5 hours as of this date. So we're at 40 hours of that. And we have a new security personnel that's working and doing a really good job with that. So we're excited for that. There is an error in my report now on the 3rd bullet point. I mentioned that the street in front of Fairmount is going to close. Now it's not going to close. They were planning on closing that for utility work. Apparently they found a way to avoid that utility work crossing the street. So that means that Fairmount Street will not be closed at this time. So that's good for access to the library.
Okay.
And then thank you for those that were able to make it to the groundbreaking ceremony as well. Very well attended and good coverage for that area. We're excited to see what's going to be happening in that space now, because we're talking about essentially having a public library as well as a community college, a community center, a playground that will be there, a pickleball court or some other multi-sport hard court, the bike path, a bus stop, a little free library, just a lot of amenities for the community in that area. So we're real excited with how the library continues to be positioned moving forward. And those are the only things to add on.
I hope we're able to get a crosswalk signal there.
We have, yeah, thanks for bringing that up. We have recommended that to the city. So we'll see if, with their traffic analysis, if that is warranted. It makes sense to us, but there's a lot of variables that go into that, so.
Yeah, there has been one in the past, an actual push button stop sign, stop light. And then they took that out and then sometime later put in, it remained a crosswalk, but then it had a yellow flashing light, but that's all there was. It may have been a button there to make the light flash, I'm not sure, but it wasn't a stop signal. And now it's that was ultimately removed, and now it's just a crosswalk. And you know, you got to wait a long time for some people that are in each direction that are savvy enough to see people standing there and actually stop. So signal would be great, especially with all things going on and smaller children wanting to cross there. So anyway, thank you very much. Just to swing back around, I covered since it was the end of the year, I covered it, but I guess forgot that things are still in flux as they settle up the books at the end of the year. So, but anyway, we're very close and slightly under, so I thought we were in good shape for the finances.
That was the only comment I was going to make.
Okay, good, thank you. Oh, yes, and please let the record show that Tom Engelman is going to be. Okay, so let's see, records report. Next item under reports and communications is our council liaison, Marion.
Thank you.
How
I'm
are you?
sorry I couldn't be with you today. The state did a tax credit application seminar early at 11, and so I had to be in front of this thing for that. So anyway, I always like seeing people in person if I can. So it is right now at council, there is, in terms of business before council, nothing really extraordinary, I guess. We, always right before the fiscal year starts, we're finishing budgets and things like that. And so, of course, the new fiscal year has begun, as we all know. There are a couple of things that I want to talk about. One thing that will be coming up soon, which I think is of certainly interest to this group, is that as you guys may recall, I went through how we got the money together for Main Street Landing and part of that was silent crossing money from Canadian Pacific, other things. So at last night's third ward meeting, I had Clay Merritt, who deals with many of our contracts. And what he told us last night, that a couple of things was that he's hoping that in August, the first sort of application process for the silent crossings might come before council. Now, the silent crossings are a very complicated process because you have to get approvals from the feds, from the railroad, but the railroad's been very receptive to all this, but there's different ruling bodies because you're crossing different roads that belong to different people. But I think what he said last night is they could begin there. He's hoping that they can begin, implementation of this next year. So that's sooner than I thought. I thought he was more pushed out, and I know that's still a long way off. But in terms of noise downtown and everything, pretty important, I think. The other thing is that we are approving an application for another grant to help address flooding issues, which certainly affect downtown and access into downtown. And we don't know if we will get that grant. I think was huge. It's a huge grant. I don't know. It's 14 million or something like that. And it would raise some roads in different areas. It would help protect River Drive closer to downtown. Now, the other things that are approved that are working and are on the schedule this year, they got pushed back a little bit because of the flood, is the disconnection of the sewers from the river going into the river, the storm sewers, not sanitary sewers, at Iowa. And that is supposed to be underway this year, and also at Marquette. And that's money that we have already. Those are still, were delayed a bit because of the flooding, which ironically, but sooner or later, those will get done. So the pieces of the flood plan are starting to move. The other part was what I think I talked about last year, which doesn't affect downtown directly, but it is the crossing at Concord, which will protect, and the berming around the water pollution control plant, which began to protect that area from flooding. And that's very significant, and certainly to all of us if we want to flush our toilets, and others, in Scott County. So that's a huge project as well. And I believe all the money has been gotten for that. So a lot of those kind of projects that are infrastructure, but, are important. A couple of other things today. So again, the other thing that will become close to the library, so 3rd and 4th Street, there is I remind it was 5 years ago when we went for and were approved for a grant to resurface 3rd and 4th Street from Harrison to Telegraph. And that is, so that money finally came in. It takes several years. It has to be approved by the feds and everything. But in any case, that work may be starting next year as well. In the fiscal year 2020, it would be 2025, and that would be July 1st of 2024. So again, those things that have been in the distance are coming at us, and probably in conjunction with that, but there is no date, is the return of 3rd and 4th Street to their original two-way configuration. No set dates on that. The other thing that was interesting today was Jeff, it was good to see. I didn't get to say hey, but at the Downtown Partnership meeting this morning, there are now 2,000 people living downtown. They were at the 1,600 number, but today they said 2,000 people. That's 2,000 potential library patrons, and I'm sure some come to the library, but I don't know if there may be people who have never lived close enough to walk to a library, and now they do. So that might be some kind of opportunity. I don't know exactly what it is, but if you had a neighborhood that suddenly you had 2,000 more people living in it, then what's the opportunity there? So I would just point that out. One other thing that's kind of exciting that's going on downtown is I have been talking to a number of years to people who live downtown of gee, it would be nice to have neighborhood organizations downtown, understanding that downtown is not one neighborhood. It's that different sections of downtown function differently. So one part might feel cohesive and the other not, or feel differently, and that's okay. So what has happened is the folks there was a gentleman who moved to town. He lives on East 2nd Street. I had a conversation at one of the mortgage meetings. He started going out, talking to people. He was interested. He was new, and due to a downtown experience, he lived in the suburbs till he moved here. But he and his wife decided they wanted to live downtown. So he started talking to people, and it turns out that other people in this area, and this is the area of East 2nd Street that was in the last couple of years was designated as the Motor Row and Industrial Historic District, National Register District. And lo and behold, there was a guy sitting in an ad agency saying, wow, we need to, this is a great neighborhood. And so we have been talking for months, several months. It came together. The guy had already created a logo, which is they're calling it the Motor Row Neighbors. And people who were involved really liked it. So that's starting to happen. So it will be our first, and I believe it will be successful. We had a kickoff last week that was sort of to invite more neighbors to it, but it's for residents, business owners, property owners, people interested in the area, to kind of start identifying part of towns as neighborhoods. And again, that happens organically. It's not something the city can create, but it's exciting. It's the first one. There's a lot of enthusiasm for it. I'm sure there will be many bumps in the road, as there are with every neighborhood association. But it's exciting. And I guess I would say, is there around the library a neighborhood as well? I think about Hibernia Hall, some of the things that have sort of repopulated in your area. Again, just something to think about. The city can't create that. You can't create neighborhoods, but you can try to help, you can try to help, encourage them, I guess. So look for more from Motor Row Neighbors. They're maybe doing an event, in the fall. So I just wanted to let you know about that as well. So those are some of the things that are happening at council and just kind of around downtown. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions for Marion? Well, that organization sounds like one would be an easy way to tap into a bunch of people about using the library.
There you go. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. That may be how to embed there, to start there. It sounds great.
Okay, moving on to the agenda, the next item is new business. First item there is a discussion of the sex offender policy. And any comments on that, Jeff? Whoops, hold it. Nope, we're discussing that. Okay, yeah, do we have any?
Yeah, just some context on this. Per Iowa code, we have prohibited the presence of sex offenders convicted of sex offenses against minors on library property without receiving written permission from the library director. And that includes loitering within 300 feet, and then also any employees or volunteers. And this policy addresses that. There are no substantive changes to the policy at this time. It's really just up for review. So if you feel comfortable making a motion, that would make sense. And if not, you could wait for another cycle and if there's more to discuss about it. But there's no proposed changes from staff at this time.
I don't know, those present, how do you feel about it? If you do, please feel free to make a motion. If not, we can let it ride and put it on the agenda for next time. Okay, we'll let it go then. I did look at the Iowa Code, section 692A, and boy, there's a lot of stuff there. I mean, I didn't read it, but I just went on for page and page and page and page. And that was just the definitions. But anyway, no, appreciate that, and we'll take that up for action at our next meeting. Oops. Okay. Next item under new business, discussion of bylaws. Who speaks for the board? This is something that has been mentioned, oh, I don't remember, at least once, but maybe twice, but not a whole lot more than that. But I just happened to be thinking about that, and typically it would, I went out and looked at a few other boards' bylaws of Iowa Public Libraries, and the ones I looked at didn't include anything like this in their bylaws. But I was severely limited in time to do that. As I mentioned earlier, we had grandchildren all weekend. So pretty difficult to do anything. And when you thought you had time, you're out of energy. So anyway, it was just something I wanted to see if there any discussion. It's like, typically when you see these things, it would say the president, but maybe there's another person. I don't know if anybody else has seen this in anybody's bylaws or elsewhere. And so it's just, as I would see it, it would be in situations where perhaps, there's, something of significance going on that the media may have interest in. I know when we were doing our library director search, I was contacted several times by the Quad City Times about questions about, who had applied and those kinds of things, and told them I wasn't commenting on that. And, so, I mean, that's a possibility. I think the only other time I remember being contacted by the newspaper, for the library anyway, was when Amy retired, just, asking for comments about that. But those are the kind of things. So those, anyway, it was just a thought. It's, like I say, something that came to mind that had come up before. Do we need it? Do we think we should have it? Who should it be?
Well, it would seem obvious to me that president of the board would speak for the board. And that it would be logical to me that the rest of us would defer to the president of the board. In other words, if the news media contacts us, we would say, talk to Steve. Because, we can't have 17 different people speaking for the library.
That's
Now, that doesn't suggest that any one of us would say anything untoward, but it just makes sense to have one contact person.
And, and I guess one way to look at that is that that's kind of how our board is now. I mean, hopefully it would always be, that would be the situation, but one never knows. And it's kind of like the code of ethics we talked about. It's kind of something that's best talked about and, if desired, implemented when everyone's getting along, rather than, when something might come up and the board is not, cohesive or whatever. But anyway, any other comments, questions, thoughts?
I'd just be interested, how much were you approached when the building fell? How operations in the library?
A handful of media requests.
I just wonder if you shouldn't designate somehow professional operations of the library. And then your role, our role is different.
Sure, that's a possibility. Yeah, because there would be things about operations perhaps that.
I would know nothing about it.
So how does it stand now? Just for sort of an understanding that if, as I see it, that you've done this before, it would just be one person. Is that the way it is now, or it's not written down?
No, it's not written down, and I don't know if anybody else has been contacted. Those are the only two instances that I've been contacted. So,
were you contacted about the Tea Party at all? The youth,
The drag brunch?
yeah.
No.
Okay. Were you by media?
Yeah, we had contacts at various times. And I would say that we would generally, on the professional side of things, would handle responses. And then if we need the board to respond, then it would make sense to add something to the bylaws that would say that probably under Article 2, officers, Section 2, the president, under their responsibilities, and also the president speaks for the board. Some language that we would add there, that would just be a sentence clarifying that.
That would be good.
Is it, I don't know, but is it appropriate then to make a distinction within it to what Jeff said and to echo what Craig mentioned, to have it in the bylaws that professional, again, the term is not right, but the professional thoughts, comments come from the library. When I say professional, in the sense, the management and things like that. And what is designated to the board to speak? I mean, do we have a role where we say, this is what the board can speak about?
Yeah.
This is what the library will share. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think it would just be, I would think about, as far as who speaks for the board would be, as far as the board's role in, policy development and, things
Right.
like that. So yeah, it would be speaking for the board, but yes, like, things like operating matters and things like that, I think.
So should that be
Yes,
clearly
right.
indicated in this? Like,
I think that would be a good idea.
Yeah, just to talk.
Okay, well then I'll make a motion that Article 2, Section 2.
That's just a question. What I would like to do is, to do some more looking and see if I can find something that breaks this
Okay.
out and maybe talk with Jeff about, how we would delineate that, but I appreciate you.
I mean, it would
your
be,
interest.
it would be as simple as putting in the president shall preside at all meetings, be the contact point for any media, for the media, and perform such other duties as prescribed by law or usually pertain to the office. I mean, you just insert a clause in there that would state that,
Okay.
state the obvious to
Yeah,
me.
okay. Yeah, I'll keep that in mind, and like I say, I want to talk with Jeff and see if we have a way to actually delineate this so we have some.
Okay.
But I appreciate it. Okay, we'll do some more looking on that and kick it around and talk with Jeff, and we'll come up with something prior to the next meeting, hopefully.
And that would require an amendment to the bylaws, so we
Yes.
need to make sure we have that language in place and that we notify the public in advance that we're going to be amending.
Yes. And that also takes like a 2/3 vote rather than just a majority. I don't see a problem with that, but just for information. Okay, moving along, annual committee assignments. I had sent out an email asking if anyone felt that they would like to switch committees. And the only response I received was a request to stay on the same committee. So I guess that was just to be sure. But anyway, so I don't know. I guess I would say, seems everybody's happy and maybe it's just me kicking the can down the road. But I, am leaving the committees the same as they are now, which for advocacy would be Malavika, Sylvia, and Judy. Finance, Tom, Joe, and me, and personnel, Amanda, Craig, and Laura. So those will be the committees for the coming year. And let's see. Next item is president's comments. And I guess the only thing I had was to mention the groundbreaking, and Jeff already mentioned that, but it was interesting. There were quite a few people there from the city, and good to see them there and be supportive. And the architects were there, and they talked about what the project was going to involve. And it's pretty good. It was quite a warm day. But anyway, and you might have even seen us on TV.
He was very dashing in his hat. He had a dashing hat on.
I was trying to- I thought that was you.
That was me. Yeah, I was the one with that.
Yeah.
Yep. So anyway, but no, it's really something to look forward to. And you know, I think it's gonna be pretty cool. I mean, it's in my neighborhood, so that's nice.
Well, it's going to be interesting in that it's kind of becoming kind of like Bettendorf, where they have
Yeah.
a campus,
Yeah.
they've got a variety of things going on. Same kind of thing is going to be in effect what's going to be over there, which is good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We should make a pickleball team, all of us.
Take on the other libraries.
Yes.
Hey, maybe there's something there. I don't know.
Yes, outreach.
Okay, let's see. Yeah. So the next item on the agenda is board training, and Jennifer's gonna tell us about HR.
Yep, that's gonna be me.
Yes, okay, Jennifer.
So I've been here 6 years, had to look that up, but yep,
Really?
6 years.
Been that long?
It flies, doesn't
Wow.
it? It flies very quickly. So when I was putting this together, it's really hard to summarize what you do into one page.
Yeah.
So this is definitely just a highlight of some of the key areas. So one of the biggest areas is the hiring process, which we recently did on the board side of it. We working with the board to hire director, which we won't be doing anytime in the near future, ever again. But on the other side of it, when I'm hiring for staff for the library, this kind of outlines the process that I go through. So the first is when there is a vacancy, the admin team, we actually look at every vacancy that we have and kind of discuss, are we gonna fill it as is? Or are we going to take the opportunity to change it for whatever we might need for the organization? So we do that with all the vacancies that occur. So once that happens and we make those decisions, then the position gets posted. So it gets posted in lots of different places. So the core of the places it gets posted to is NeoGov, which is the city of Davenport site that they use for the hiring. It also goes on to the library website. It goes over social media, and then depending on the position, it can go to multiple other places. It can go to the colleges here in the Quad Cities, or it can go to colleges literally in every state that touches Iowa. I have the opportunity to post in. Of course, it depends on the position. We also have hiring flags that we can put out front, just depending on what position that we have available. Once the applications start flowing in, I review every application that comes in. I'm looking for qualifications, I'm looking for their experience, and if it's going to be a match to the positions that we have on hand. And that could be 10 applications, it could be 6 applications, just kind of depends on the position. And once they're reviewed, then I send them, the ones that pass that review, to the supervisor that has the vacancy, for them to review it, see who might be interested in interviewing. Every interview, every position has different things that go with it. Some positions have testing that has to be done before an applicant can actually be invited to an interview. Some positions during the interview process, they have a presentation they have to do. So there's just different variety of things that go along with that interviewing and application process. So once we pick our candidates, then they are given a tentative offer. During that time, I'm working on doing background checks. I'm also doing reference checks. So they have to provide a certain number of references for me to call. So all of that is going on when that tentative offer is happening. I like to have a backup. So if something goes awry, I have a second person to pull into that process, but that's not always the case. So we go with what we have. After we've selected, they've made it through all of that, they have accepted an official offer from us, then it comes the onboarding process. That includes tons and tons of paperwork, and that's also connecting them into the city's system, so getting them loaded into that system and getting them here in the library and getting that orientation process started.
Could I?
Yes.
Just interrupt with the question. In terms of testing for the different positions, is there any, I guess, are we looking at those tests to see if they are actually testing for what we really need? Or is it
Yes.
just that we've always used this test for,
We
because
have-
I think some tests over time develop a certain bias towards a particular, either a particular group or a particular set of skills that may or may not be relevant to the position. And so, I mean, I realize this may or may not be valid, but at times, I think we always have to kind of question, do we really need this test, or do we really need this part of this test? Just a question.
And there had been a period of time where the test did not change.
Mhm.
But over I want to say about a year and a half ago, we did, with the help of the DI team, actually reviewed all of those and
Okay.
made updates and made them make sure they were relevant to what we were needing. So we
Okay.
actually did exactly what you were saying.
Okay.
And I think I tested one of those tests as well.
Okay.
I took that test while we were reviewing it, so, yeah.
Did you pass?
I think so.
I didn't see that one, but. We had different stages as we were creating those
Right.
versions of those
Right,
tests, so
right.
make sure that they were relevant, so. It's a very good question. So that's pretty much the hiring process in a nutshell. And like I say, you guys got to experience the director side of the hiring process and all the things and steps that went through all of that I assisted the board with. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm glad to hear we won't be going through that for a long time.
Yeah.
That was hard work.
Yeah, it was a process. Yes, it
A
was.
lot of meetings.
Yeah, a lot of, wow. Yeah, it was hard work. Do you work with city HR in any of these processes? or-
No.
Okay,
So I solely do it for the library.
okay, yeah, that's what I thought.
I use their systems, but
Yeah, okay.
any other questions about hiring? Anything you've ever wanted to know? Anything?
Okay, then
Go ahead.
I just have one. Jennifer, all these applications come through the online thing, right,
Correct.
of the
Mhm.
city? So is it, just curiosity here, is it also read by, they talk about some algorithm that reads it when it's not like that, right?
No, it's not.
It comes out and then it gets printed and you are actually,
So
you or
whoever applies, it all just shows up.
Okay, so it's not that OCR or something they call it, that doesn't, okay.
The system has the capabilities to have those kind of things to do pre-screening, but I don't use any of them.
Okay,
So I actually review every
I
application.
agree, okay, yeah, thank you,
Yeah.
yeah.
Any other questions on hiring? So the next part, I just kind of threw in some stats in here. So we have the turnover rates for the past couple of years, what that has looked like. So we have for 2021, it was 15%. So that was 11 employees during that time. And then 2022 was 18%, 13 employees.
I guess the question would be, is there any statistics out there, like across the state or similar sized libraries, that would tell us that that is normal? Or
I,
Are you normal?
yeah, I can jump in a little bit on that. Industry, this is right in line in general, industry employment.
Okay,
A sign of a high functioning organization is generally gonna be less than 15%, 10 to 12% would be more ideal. For a library profession, this is right about where things sit. And then the other factors in here are COVID. And there are a lot of upheaval during the time that you're looking at some of these turnover rates.
Well, aren't those turnover rates mostly for non-full-time employees?
And a lot of them are gonna be position specific for our organization, where we might have higher turnover in some positions that are more frontline or part-time, not as much.
Seasonal.
Maybe, yeah, well, I don't know. if
But also
seasonal-
during these 2 years, the city offered those separation agreements. So we did lose some staff that chose to take those separation agreements.
So that's increased the number again too.
So there were several during those years that did that.
Yeah, really good question.
Thank you.
So the other stats that I included is just the longevity, so we can see the amount of years that the staff that we currently have been here, so. Obviously, 1 through 4 is the highest. And like I say, during that separation agreements, we did lose some of those higher numbers at the very top, so. But we still have quite a few that are between the 5 and 10 years, so that's a good number to have, so.
well, it's good to have a certain amount of institutional memory. I mean,
Very good.
you can have lots of new ideas and new people, but you need to have, that's 11 with people have been around the block a few times, so to speak.
And you can still
That report,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So next up, some of the other things that I work on is policy and procedure on the staff side of it. So obviously the administrative policies, which are ones that you guys approve. We went through that transition a couple years ago when we went from the manual to the actual individual policies. So I help maintain those, and when there needs update, gets all the signatures and all of those things that need to be done with that. I also work on the emergency manual, which is all the emergency procedures, which is going over a changeover as well, to make it more user friendly so that staff can easily use that when emergencies do arise. Other responsibilities is our employee performance appraisal. So we do yearly appraisals on every staff member in the library, and we also do them at their 6-month probation. So we actually have an electronic system that supervisors enter that information in, and then I'm the first step, and I read through all the evaluations before they go to that next level. So I do that for the entire library, and then also do that again at 6 months when staff get to that point. I also take care of payroll, so that's bi-weekly. So anytime staff are requesting sick, vacation, holiday leave, I manually am entering their time into the system so it uses the appropriate time. So that's the main part of doing the payroll, is making sure all that time gets entered into there. I also work with volunteers, so anytime we get a volunteer application, I'm running the background checks for those. And then on the application for a volunteer, they can choose areas that they have interest in. And so I'm working with whatever supervisor, whatever building to see if they have that need in that building to try to connect them so they have that relationship connected. And then I provide a general orientation for any new volunteers that come in. Next up is coaching. So I do the coaching and provide guidance to all the members of the leadership team when they're working with their direct reports. So if they need help with, hey, I've got to have this difficult conversation, I offer that support to them and guidance to help them work through those kind of situations. And I also oversee any of the disciplinary process that we have to engage in throughout the library. Lastly on here is the ASME union. I serve as a point of contact, making sure that we get our labor management meetings set up and done by monthly. And then any kind of questions or issues that might arise that we need to contact the union stewards, I kind of, that conduit in between to make sure those kind of conversations occur.
Could I ask a question on
Yes.
employee performance appraisals?
Yes.
In 6 months and then at an annual.
Yes.
I mean, is everybody like always done at this time, or is it like because of when your hire date? So you might have some appraisals done in July, some in August, some in September.
So the 6 month are based on when they hire.
Okay, all
So
right,
that was individual, but the annual ones we all do at the same time every
okay,
year.
all right.
Yeah.
So just so I kind of understand the process. Thank you.
No problem.
So, Jennifer, we used to have in the past the PAGE program. I mean, the students,
student, yeah.
right? We don't have.
Yeah, we eliminated that
Okay.
position,
Okay.
because we found it very difficult to hire for, because literally every building, well, the branches each had 4 in each building.
Oh,
The main part of the library had 4, and then special collections had 2.
okay.
And we just found we weren't able to be competitive
Oh, yeah.
to be able to get,
People,
Students.
students in. Oh, got it, got it. Okay,
so we had to change it up and go a different way.
of course, of course.
You're busy.
Yeah.
Are you a one-person staff or do you have helpers?
Yes.
Yeah.
Persons?
Yes, I do have help, I won't say I don't have help.
Not-
So like
not-
Casey's like my backup for payroll, and yeah, so.
I'm not sure.
Yeah. Huh?
If you're sick from payroll week.
Casey's my-
Oh, okay. There we go.
Those people gotta get paid, so I do go on vacation, so, yeah, Casey's lovely to be my backup on that, so.
No, I appreciate all you do.
Yeah.
I know you do a lot. Good stuff.
And Steve, just a couple of things to add on to what Jennifer does, and obviously she's not able to convey everything in just one
Sure.
page.
Yeah.
It's a significant amount that she's able to do without us having to rely on city HR for a lot of that. She's able to do a bunch of stuff. She's a key member of the admin team and the leadership team. And then in the last 6 years that she's been here, she's been able to raise the level of professionalism within the organization with a number of different initiatives, including just the consistency of the policies and procedures, and then managing what is really our most important resource, which is our staff, which is our people. And she's able to do that in a professional manner, and then also in a support manner that's really remarkable to see. So she's a real asset to the organization. We're thankful that she's here.
Yes, you're here. Any other questions for Jennifer? Okay. Thank you, Jennifer. Next item on the agenda is adjournment. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second? Trustee Malavika, motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Same sign?
I learned my lesson on that.
Yeah.
Sylvia
very
taught
much.
me a new one time. Don't do that. I said no.
Thank you for everybody for your time.
We did that once.
Really?